Good morning. My name is Kirsty Dignam, and I'm here to look at the energies for today's Monday's musings and the week ahead. For those that have tuned in regularly, you will see that the background behind me has changed as I've brought everything back from our shop, which is now closed, into my spare room. And that's been quite an interesting journey, and one that we will all collectively face as many aspects of what we offer and who we are start to come together into one place. And there's nothing like sitting in that energy. So often we can compartmentalize who we are in our roles or our agendas or our understandings or what is needed in that moment, to the point where we can actually forget the expansiveness of our soul and our potential and our abilities also. An example, I didn't know what this video was going to be about, and with everything that's been going on this last week, I did contemplate not actually doing the video, not turning up and leaving the next two videos bare and not doing them, and starting to take the sabbatical that I'm going to take in August a little bit earlier. But I paused and I felt into what I was feeling, which is really going to be key this week before we jump the gun, before we leap ahead. To be very aware of the subtle energies that are changing, that are shifting, and to not underestimate them. And in doing so, underestimate ourselves. It could be really beneficial to sit with all aspects of ourselves this week, from wounds through to gifts, from medicine and understanding through to future learnings. Only then can we actually appreciate the expansiveness of who we are. And it has been interesting sitting in this room. It has, so you can see I have pipes, I have sound instruments, I have my cards behind me in the cupboard, I have crystals. The whole room is full of everything that I offer. And being in the presence of that is slightly uncomfortable. At first it felt quite discombobulated, almost as if the energies didn't flow very well. And every time I move something, every time I shift something, there's a very subtle but very powerful change in the energy of this room. Now I share that because this is what we are all facing, individually and collectively, the recognition where certain parts of us may no longer flow with where we're headed. That doesn't mean we have to throw it all out. It might just need a slight adjustment, a slight moving around, sitting with it perhaps and feeling into it. Acknowledgement and awareness are one of the biggest tools. Now, on the subject of tools, the cards that I am going to use this week for the reading are the Wildwood Tarot, but they're the original Wildwood Tarot. And you can't get hold of these anymore. And I actually left these outside once to cleanse and clear them, and they got wet. So they're a bit bowed. They're a bit outdated. They're a bit unique. And I can really relate to them right now. And that feels quite important, that we connect to energies that we can relate to. If we can sense into any judgment that we have with that, we can also sense into any reflective views that we have of ourselves. I've been journeying with the tarot cards for the last 15 days, meaning today I'm on the Devil card. And the Devil card, the deck that I'm journeying with from a new vision, a completely different perspective. And the Devil card that I'm journeying with today isn't about getting involved in it all. It's about stepping back and witnessing. From that perspective, a lot of things don't feel relevant to me anymore. And that's quite an interesting, difficult, mournful place even to be. As my own narrative of where do I fit in now comes to the surface. And the truth of it is we don't. Even though it can be human to want to fit in, to want to belong, and also part of our survival as a species. So it really initiates that reptilian mindset that we need to belong at all costs, and that we're willing to sabotage and sacrifice parts of ourselves in order to do so, to be safe. The truth of the matter is we're all different. We're all supposed to be different. And that does really feel as if that's the emphasis that's coming through with the Devil card for me today, to step back, to observe, to witness, and to not get involved with things that are none of my bloody business. Which is something that's really going to take a more heightened perspective over the next 6 months. It's not even 6 months now, it's about 5 months, isn't it, till the end of the year. Because by the end of the year, we're going to be given the opportunity to really start to focus on what we want to take forward, not in external things, but in who we are. Now, back to the tool situation. Again, I wasn't actually going to do the reading today. I wasn't going to do the video today. And I got the deck of cards out, put them next to me. the card that's on the top is the Eight of Stones, the Eight of Pentacles, and it's all about skill. If we can sit next to the energies that we relate to, if we can sit next or be near or connect to the energies that we resonate with, what happens there is our own gifts are brought forward in a more nurturing, applicable, sustaining environment. It takes great skill to recognize what actually helps us to grow and what can hold us back, ourselves included. And there's such a fine line that we're going to face this week. There's such a fine line. So for an example, my ability to read energies has come from trauma and has become a skill and a gift, but has also, when out of balance, made me a very nosy, energetic person, subconsciously for a lot of it, and not always subconsciously, but tuning into things that I don't need to tune into isn't a skill. That's being very mindful this week where we can overemphasize our skill for our own narrative. Where we can really stretch our abilities beyond what they were supposed to be doing, bringing them back to the basics. This card is very, very basic. Yeah, bringing them back to the more prehistoric energy behind them. Bringing them back to what can we do with that? It's one thing to feel things. It's one thing to be aware of what's going on. It's one thing to know the stories. It's one thing to recognize where there's imbalances and pain and disruption in the world. What are you being asked to do about it? What are you being asked to do about it? And some are asked to bring it to the surface for it to be seen. Some are asked to hold space for it. Some are asked to stir the shit because it all has a place. Everything has a place as part of what we are building. What I'm sensing this week is a need for role management. And that's not to say some people can do this, some people can do that in a dictatorship way. Work with what you're good at. And it may feel as if there's a despondency there, as if it's not enough. So I'm very good at witnessing, very good at holding space. And sometimes that doesn't feel enough for me. And because of that, I will jump into a situation where I end up getting very confused, very mismatched with the energies. And my own skill takes a sidestep for many, many reasons. Yeah, for the wanting to belong, for the feeling as if what I offer isn't enough, for the wanting to be involved in all of it, for my own traumas and my own wounds. And this week, it's that we're being asked to really investigate the medicine that is available within our wounds for the skill that is there, not the pain. Are we acting from that wounded place, or are we providing a skill as a result of being? So with that in mind, I am going to read the energies for this week, and I'm going to put it out there now. What I'm thinking about doing next week for the final Monday's musings for a month at least, and it will be at least. And the truth is, I don't actually know. Well, I do know what's coming, but I don't know what's coming right now. And I'm happy to stay open to that, which could really be something that helps us navigate the energies this week as well. Knowing that we do know, knowing that we are aware of whatever it is we're here to do. We may not physically know right now, but having that inner core strength of knowing that we know. We may not mentally understand, but energetically, on a soul level, we know what we're here to do. Finding environments that support that, our own included. Finding a way to stay grounded in that so that our true gifts, our true innate skills can come to the surface this week. It can be quite deep. The next 5 months can be really quite deep, life-changing, transformative, even. Not in the ways that we would expect. I tuned into the energy. I will get to the cards. Maybe I won't. When I tuned into the energies yesterday, with how it took very little movement in my room to make such a big impact. It was the Lionsgate energy that was coming, and it was opening slowly. And it's very high vibrational energy. It's very much linked to the masculine. Of course, it depends on our own ability to hold space for that. So it will only be at the level and health of our own feminine. So we may be encouraged to go within this week so that we can hold these changes that are coming in preparation for the Lion's Gate. But they are very high frequency changes. They are very subtle energy. Those that do not take the time to witness the shifts in their own perspective, their own energy, their own path, will not acknowledge how much they've grown by the time that the Lion's Gate comes. And there is a massive potential to see that. Huge potential to see that. A very large potential to see that. How many times can I say the word potential? It's all about that this week. So with that in mind, because that's coming from that believes so much needs to shift and change in order to be ready to receive what it is we're seeking. So with that in mind, I'm very aware of the Capricorn full moon yesterday, very aware that it was the second full moon in Capricorn, very aware it was the second full moon in the same month, so that makes it a blue moon. Very aware of lots going on with it being 29 degrees and blah, 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 blah. Very, very aware that for me personally, there seems to be a repetitive message there about worth, about how grounded we are, how connected we are to our worth. If we're not in that space, any obstacles we face are going to be too big for us. They're going to seem as if they're too big for us, depending on where we view ourselves from, this week in particular. So with that in mind, energies this week and how to best navigate them. Oh, it's powerful. It's very, it could very well be the cards that I'm shuffling as well, and it could very well be my own energy. And this week, it's important to recognize where the energy is coming from, but also to acknowledge that they're one and the same and that there's divine timing there and divine order there. So yes, I'm using very old original cards. Yes, the Capricorn full moon was very much about standing in our more innate self. Yes, I'm feeling that come through for myself as well with all of these energies around me, but the sabbatical that's coming up and the changes that have occurred. Overall, there is an older, wiser, elder energy trying to come through for us collectively. We are being supported. So whatever you are feeling, it doesn't matter where it's coming from. We are being supported by the same energy. So there is more to that, should we so wish. There is more to that if we choose to. There's one thing to pull things apart. Don't forget to rebuild them. Don't forget to rebuild them. We can deconstruct lots of things, lots of systems that don't work. And that's very valid this week, not to carry on doing something just because you've always done it. That's not a secure foundation. Changes change. However, if we choose to pull everything apart, what are we going to build on from there as well? It's a wonderful opportunity to do. I hear the phrase, what goes up must come down, but what goes down must come up as well. Energies this week, how to best navigate that. Really feel that in my solar plexus, really feel that in my throat. Really feel almost like a knee-jerk reaction that I added the what must come down must go up as well, almost to soften the blow. And we may find this week is a bit of a blow. We may find that a lot of things crumble, a lot of things that aren't sustainable fall apart. And it's that we have to acknowledge. It's not sustainable in the method or modality or way that it is. Doesn't mean, I'm not advocating that we leave all relationships and we, abandon our jobs and I'm not advocating any of that shit. I'm not advocating anything. What you do is up to you. I'm just going to read the cards. But just because something isn't sustainable doesn't mean it has to end. It just means it needs rebuilding in a more authentic, beneficial manner for all involved. And so we have the Two of Cups at the bottom of the pack. Attraction. Yeah. Like builds like. Okay. Now, I don't mean and I will say it, more wishy-washy version of keep your vibration high and everything will stay high. I don't mean that. What I mean is go deeper here. Where is your worth? What level is that at? There is no good trying to manifest something if you don't believe you're worthy to receive it. Be grateful for that's come to the surface and work with that. Because manifestation isn't just about the end result, right? It's about all the things that you learn along the way. So you may want to achieve something and not feel as if you're worthy. The actual manifestation is the journey of worth. And when you can then do the like attracts like vibration, not only have you received it, not only have you planned it and conceived it, you've managed to gain everything that you need to gain along the way. So it becomes the more embodied. We talk about 3D perspectives and 7D perspectives. We see a lot of lower energy as 3D and actually avoid the very valuable lessons that are available there. Manifestation can be 3D too, and not always in the way that we think. Ignoring what we're feeling and trying to manifest something when energetically we're not in alignment. That's a very 3D perspective, not in a negative way, but there are some physical things to be done there. There is some work to be had there. It's lower in frequency, more dense in frequency. So we need to bring that up by acknowledging it in the first place. So yes, like attracts like, but without the judgment. Where are you at? Where do you want to be? What's the difference? Bridge the gap. Become the portal. Make the difference in your life. I know as things were, they weren't sustainable in my life. And I've handed it over to the universe. The shop has been closed. There are things being changed. And I know that my part of the contract, my part of the bargain, if you will, is to take time out. Much as for me personally, that's like having teeth pulled, to take time back, to step back, to incorporate all of my tools to myself so I can recognize where I actually am now. So that I'm not then manifesting and creating from my past. I'm doing it from my present moment. That's like attracts like. Okay, so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Overall, we do have the 9 of Pentacles, the 9 of Stones here. And on this deck in particular, it's called Tradition. Being very aware of what that means to us. What does abundance mean to us from a traditional perspective? There's no point asking for lots of money if for you throughout your life abundance has meant being around lots of family. Like attracts like, and that's not, again, in a negative perspective. That doesn't mean that you're not going to get lots of money, but if you're trying to manifest something that is an unknown quantity to you because of your upbringing, your beliefs, where you're at, it's going to be that much more difficult. Okay, so overall, the energy this week, it's important to remember from the full moon until the next full moon that it is about tradition. It is about the 9 of Pentacles. It is about abundance. It is about recognizing the very connection of you, the very connection of you to the earth, of you to your surroundings, of you to your own cycles, and acknowledging the tradition of you. What do you need right now? And this week it is going to be apparent, it is going to be shown as we feel into perhaps some traditions that no longer work for us, that have been handed down, that were never ours to carry forward in the first place. So on the Monday we have the Green Woman, and in this deck it is the Empress. And what I see here most of all, first and foremost, is the Dragon. Well, actually, what I saw first was the Green Jade. At the bottom of the pottery here, the green jade coming from her sacral center and her sexual center, the heart energy that is available in our root chakra. Now, we don't think about that, right? When we think about grounding, we think it has to go down through our feet. What about grounding from our heart? What about connecting our root chakra and our heart chakra together so that whatever we are delivering comes from that space of love? For ourselves included. We have the dragon energy here, and this is the ley lines of the earth. There is great shifts going on through us for Pachamama. We are made up of the spiral of life, and it's that in the very center of this spiral you can see the green eye. Now that green eye is on one of the other cards, which is the Ace of Swords, and it's about the breath of life. To see the cycles and the spirals that we go through as the very breath of life, the very force of existence. So often when we come across a cycle, we can think, I've been here. Oh gosh, I'm doing this again. It's bringing life into a different aspect of us on a different level. On the Tuesday, that brings forth joy. We have the 3 of Cups here, and we have, it's very psychedelic, and where I've been looking at the light in front of my screen and then looking at the cards, it's very blurry, and all I can see is patterns and cycles, and almost looking through a kaleidoscope of all the different colours of the world. I can just about see the herons that are on there, and I can just about see the cups, but what I can see in the centre is the triquetra, triquetra. The mother, maiden, crone, that triple energy, that threefold law. Is there anything else that I need to add here? It's trippy on Tuesday. It's really trippy on Tuesday, and opening up to that, allowing that to just be present, to be part of your reality. So often we get so caught up in what is possible, and we're so limited in our understanding of that. We're so restricted in the view of what we're capable of. Even those that are massively on their enlightenment path or woke or whatever, there is so much restriction in the physical body in regards to what it's capable of seeing. Even light, even colour. There's so many different rays beyond our ability to see. So if things feel a bit trippy Tuesday, allowing them to be trippy as an opportunity to open up and expand beyond what we know, beyond the joy that we've experienced. I really feel that in my third eye when I look into the center, or that could very much be key on Tuesday. When you spin around and you spin around and you spin around, and then you feel a bit dizzy and you need that focal point. With everything getting trippy around us, having a focal point in it all, what am I choosing to focus on here? And when I close my eyes, I feel a bit nauseous, but I actually see the insides of sunflowers, the inside of the seed. Focus on the seed. Don't get distracted by the growth. Don't get distracted by the beauty. Don't get distracted by how trippy it is. Focus on the seed of it all. What am I going to do with this? Whether it's negative or positive, whether it's things that you've seen in the news, things that are going on in your family, whatever is occurring, it is delivering something. It really is bringing forth change on the Tuesday, but focus. Try not to get too distracted with it all. Focus on the seed. What am I going to do with this? Because yes, of course, 1st of August, we do have Lamass, we do have harvest, and that's very much, this full moon in Capricorn was very much about completion, but when we have completion, we have new beginnings. So when we have harvest, we're bringing in what we've discovered, the tradition of cycles, and what is closed for us and what could now come forth. I close my eyes and I can see rooms. It is very trippy this week, the energy coming in. I can see dragon eggs opening up. It's a big week. It's a really, really big week. And what? What seeds are you going to take forward? On the Wednesday, we have the Queen of Wands, or the hair card. She's actually holding an egg. So I actually saw a dragon egg. Okay, but this is very similar to the egg that I saw. But she's not doing anything with it. She knows that egg will open in its own time. There's a common misconception with the Queen of Wands being a Leo card, that she's do. But if you look at any Queen of Wands card in any suit, she's actually sat, poised and open. And this week, especially the first half of the week, there's a real emphasis on feminine energy here, and what the feminine energy actually means, and many traditions that need to almost be disillusioned and dissolved with them. The Queen of Wands isn't always do. And obviously, however we experience things will be however we experience things. The feminine is no different. But there is an elder, grandmotherly, receptive feminine trying to come through. Doesn't mean that we're not doing anything. Doesn't mean, that nothing will come as a result. In that energy, we already know things are harvested. We already know things are being born. But we trust its ability to do that. So we know that we've done all that we can, and that we're holding space and we're remaining focused on the outcome. We have our view on the horizon, on the Wednesday with the Queen of Wands. There's a big difference between a rabbit in the headlights and a hare in the field, right? Rabbit in the headlights doesn't belong there. Comes from a real fight or flight place and wants to just run. A hare in the field, it's her environment. It's her comfort zone. There's a lot of misconception that we have to stretch our comfort zone in order to grow. We have to almost pull things back before they're ready. I don't know if you've ever seen a snake shed its skin. It does it in one really easy movement, but there's a process beforehand where it almost goes translucent and invisible and can't see. Its eyes are covered and it stays very, very still. And then just by pure movement, the skin sheds. Just like an egg cracking. If you've ever seen a chick be born, that egg just gently cracks. If you've ever seen a natural, unintervened, safe or very well held birthing environment, that child is born. It happens. We work with those changes. They don't need forcing, they don't need pushing, they don't need rushing from that fight or flight. So on the Wednesday, if we feel the need to push, if we feel the need to go against the flow, what do we need to feel safe? Because the crutch of it is we don't feel safe. We don't trust the outcome. We don't trust ourselves, and we don't feel safe in that environment. So what do we need on the Wednesday to help us really step into that sovereignty of change? By connecting to our own spiritual wisdom there. And it's going to be different for everybody, and it's going to be different for us during the week. We're going to have moments where we are so enlightened, and then other moments where we're like, oh God, am I doing this again? That's okay. It's part of the process. You know, the whole dimensions, they're all part of the process. It's not about staying in one energy. It's about finding a balance point between them all that's right for you. Okay, so that we can, like a spiritual trampoline, we can go up and get what we need and bring it down. You know, we can go down so that we can go higher. It's all part of the journey. And on the Thursday, that brings forth rather large changes actually with the Eight of Wands. And this deck in particular is called the Hearth Fire. Back to the heart space. Always grounding in the heart. Yes, we ground through our feet. Yes, we ground in our root chakra, but can all chakras not be grounding? Can we not ground in our psychic vision? Can we not bring our voice down and really ground into our ability to communicate? Can we not come deep into our heart space and ground that down into the very surface beneath us? It's about our solar plexus and our sacral. And then our root chakra, and not forgetting our earth star chakra and our crown chakra. It feels very, very important to recognize that the root chakra can only do so much grounding. That actually every energy center needs to be centered and brought down. Not brought down a peg or two, but brought down to earth. You know, brought down to the application of life. It's one thing to see things. And yes, that's coming from someone that's holding a tarot card in front of you. It's one thing to see things. What are you going to do about it? It's those Two of Cups, right? Is there anything that you need to do about it? Or are you going to be asked to hold space and recognizing that's an action? Where are we acting from? What are we being asked to do? And are we willing to do it? That's what brings through rapid change. It's not about sitting back on our laurels and expecting life to sort it out for us, but it's also not about pushing as if life does nothing for us. Finding that balance, sensing into every energy center here. It is an 8, so yes, it is from now until the Lionsgate portal, which is the 8-8 portal. It is going to build. It is going to build. So stoke that fire. If you feel yourself starting to wane in your energy levels, what do you need to keep that fire going? If you feel things are a bit too intense, what do you need to keep that fire going? Because when things are intense, they're going to burn out and they're going to stop. Okay, so you need just as much rest when things are intense as what you do when you haven't got the energy. And that can be quite a conundrum this week. If we have loads and loads and loads of drive and we want to get things done, we have all of this energy, being very mindful, how sustainable is that energy? Is it going to run out? Don't forget the basics: chop wood, carry water, eat, drink, nature, rest. Definitely going to take it on board myself as well, because the energy is building. Don't burn it out. That's the outer vibration coming through. Learn how to keep sacred fire, your own flame. Learn how to maintain. Because on the Friday, if we don't, we do have the 5 of Stones. And in this deck, it's endurance. And what I love in this deck is it's not about feeling sorry for ourselves. Yeah, it's not about the victim mentality. It's about actually there's a big storm going on out there. I'm going to step back. Yeah, I'm going to decide which battles I pick. I'm feeling tired. I don't feel I have the capacity to deal with this right now. So stepping back and coming back into our own creative cave, our own internal void, our own center of well-being on the Friday. If we don't, we may end up being energetically encouraged, shall we say, taken out of the situation completely. Come the Friday, there's a real resonance there with acknowledging what is our business and what isn't our business. Because when we get involved with things that basically have nothing to do with us, in regards to what we're being asked to witness. So everything is linked to everybody. We're all one, we're all connected, it's part of the collective. However, if we're getting involved in a way that isn't right for us, one, we're going to feel it. Two, we're going to be almost dragged out of it because it isn't our busyness. Come back to yourself. Ensure that you don't take on board the storm. Be centered in who you are so that you can witness it. All storms clear. This too shall pass. Is it worth the impact that it's going to have on you? Particularly if you're not even being asked to do that in the first place. On the Saturday, we have the 6 of Stones. Now, in this, so we go from the 5 to the 6, and it feels like the Friday and Saturday, there may be a backwards, forwards movement here. We may go from feeling as if the endurance is a bit too much. And then obviously, when we're giving from a place of burnout, what are we going to get? The feeling of exploitation. The feeling as if people are taking the piss. Well, actually, come back into yourself, give yourself what you need, stock yourself up, and then when you do give, you're going to give from a more healthy perspective. So there isn't that blame and shame game over the Friday and the Saturday. You know, perfect scenario, you're burnt out, you give more than you have. Someone else says, oh yeah, I think I'll have that, and don't recognize that you're burnt out because it's not their job. It's your job to recognize that you're burnt out. And then you start to see them in a negative way, and then they feel negative because you've given them something they feel as if that they've taken. And it's just codependent spaghetti junction over the weekend if we don't tend to our own needs. Being not getting involved where we're not needed. Or at least not in the way that we're being asked to. Because what does that do? That helps us recognize traditions that have been handed down that aren't valuable to us, that aren't ours to carry forward. And when we recognize that, we then acknowledge who we are and the tradition we are bringing to the table. And in that, there's a bigger sense of abundance when everybody is in their own roles, in their own lanes, doing what they came here to do. We build so much more. And a greater perspective. We can often want people to believe the same, to do the same, to acknowledge our journey, to jump on board, to support us how we want to be supported in exactly the same way. We're not here to do that. We're here to be who we are. And the more we can do that, the more will be achieved. However, on the Saturday, there is a risk there of exploitation if we don't acknowledge that. On the Sunday, we have the 6 of Wands, which is harvest. So come the Sunday, by the time we get through all the week, we will have discovered what abundance actually means to us and what we want to take forward from that, what the cycles have taught us, what brings us joy, what we're holding out for. I hear the song Holding Out for a Hero, becoming our own hero this week in particular, by recognizing the things that aren't for us and the extra hard work that we've done and caused by stepping in places that we no longer need to be. If we can step back from that, then come the Sunday, we have that beautiful hearth fire halfway through the week, which then turns into a harvest. We take this energy, this almost psychic energy, and we do something with it, and we then reap the harvest. We then, from the seeds that we saw on the Tuesday, come the Sunday, have the ability to recognize what it is we're seeking, how abundant we are in our worth, and whether or not we're ready to receive it and co-create with it. So overall, we have one major arcana, which is the Empress, the Green Woman. Really being taught there what it means to create from a space of love. Really, of course, we're on the 22nd of July as well, which is Mary Magdalene Day. Really being taught what it means to be of the feminine energy, and that is different for everybody. I do not expect people to take on board my view of femininity, and I wouldn't do the same either. It's okay to have different views of the feminine. It's essential so that we don't limit or restrict our understanding of anything. Acknowledge what that is to you. Acknowledge how you create. We all do that differently and beautifully. We all deliver in our own ways. Acknowledge what that is to you. And from there, what you're capable of. And from there, what you need. And from there, the support that you have. And from there, what it is you need to get involved in or perhaps not as you Respect and appreciate the stage of your own cycle or labour that you're at. So I know that going quiet in August with a sabbatical, I go very, very quiet just before I'm about to deliver. I go very, very quiet before there's huge changes. I go very, very quiet. Believe it or not, I do go very, very quiet right before I surrender. I go very, very quiet right before I embody my feminine energy. So this week, what stage are you at? Are you at the point of change? What do you need? Are you at the point of beginning something new? What is it you require? Taking some time back so that you can understand fully yourself as a creatress. So we then have 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. There's no sword cards this week. No mindset this week. No mental thoughts this week. That could be a negative and a positive thing. Okay, so we're not going to be in our head, but there may be times where we could be encouraged to think about things first. Not mentally per se, but from our body and from the impact of this spiritual creative energy on our body. Because what we do have is the 3 of Cups. We have the 1 cup card. So if you think of the Ace of Cups there, our own emotional connection to the divine is what's going to bring us joy, and really examining that. What does it mean to be creative? I get a lot of people that will, their whole life has to go on hold because they're creating something and they almost become a slave to that creativity. For some people that works, for some people it doesn't. So acknowledging this week your connection to your own divinity. Does that sustain you? If yes, great. If no, what do you then need to bring back that joy? Focus on the very seeds that you are taking forward as a result of that. It is very much about rebuilding a less codependent, less hierarchical based relationship between ourselves and our guides, ourselves and our creativity, ourselves and each other, ourselves and the earth, ourselves and God, whatever that may be, a less hierarchical stance there, so that we can acknowledge it's not about what the world does to us. Okay, it's not about feeling out of control and that there's nothing we can do. It's about standing in our power as a result of what we see externally. So we have 3 wand cards and 3 pentacle cards. There's a beautiful balance there. We have those 3s, right? We have the Empress, we have the 3 wands and the 3 pentacles. There's a beautiful balance there in regards to how we create, the impact that has on our body, and what is needed from the earth as a result, as we start to step into that 9 year. So as we go into next year, we're acknowledging, yes, the 3 threes. We're acknowledging the power of 3. We're acknowledging the age-old rules of, the threefold law. What you give out comes back to you. Really, really stepping into that this week, but acknowledging that in yourself as well. What you give to yourself is going to have an impact. We know this, but do we know this? Do we really, really know this? Do we feel this? Are we acutely aware of this? Or are we just making do and keeping going through? Yes, I know that I'm going to burn myself out, but I'll deal with that later. There's not going to be a later this week. That balance has to come. We have to respect ourselves as the creators of what we're trying to achieve here, not just for ourselves, but for the earth as well. We are a physical representation of Pachamama. How are we treating our power? We're treating the earth. So 3 wand cards here, and it is the Queen of Wands, the 8 of Wands, and the 6 of Wands. If we can really truly step into that feminine, sexual, sensual, creative power that we are, rather than chase after things, rather than feel as if it's too much like a rabbit in the headlights, if we can really stand present in that energy, particularly as we're going into the Lion's Gate, it's the female Leo that's going to take us all through with the Lion's Gate. And I don't mean just on a personal level, I mean the feminine Leo archetype that's going to take us through this Lion's Gate. If we can do that, we'll acknowledge it comes from the heart. That everything must ground in and from the heart and then down into the earth. Really finding that stability within us so that we can harvest who we are, where we've been, and as a result, by the 1st of August, where we're going. So it's going to take the impact on our body that's going to help us do that. Feeling into what an abundant body feels like. What have we known traditionally about the body. There's going to be some big shifts with that. There's going to be some big changes in our understanding of the human body because we ain't seen nothing yet. Yeah, I know that we're only just finding out about the endocannabinoid system. It's not in any of the medical textbooks yet. It's a system that's within the human body. Don't even start me on the structure of the clitoris. That's not been included in biological books until very, very recently. There is so much about the human body that we have yet to understand. This week, that is going to come to the forefront. So be very open. I don't normally do this, but be very open to new investigations and new discoveries in regards to physical health and structures of the body that may have been forgotten that are coming back through, particularly with new DNA. It very much feels in regards to that and the senses. And there's a little bit of a kerfuffle there. There's a little bit of not quite understanding what's going on with our body as well. It's evolving. It's evolving, and it may feel as if it's more achy. It may feel as if it's more, it needs lots of rest, or certain foods aren't agreeing with it. And what I see is a second wave now of evolution. So for those about a decade ago, you would have remembered that your bones would be achy. There'd be certain foods you couldn't eat. Certain alcohol was a no-go. As the body evolved, there's going to be another wave of that coming in. And those that have already been through it are going to be asked to support those that are going through it as they then bring full circle in their own teachings and their own journey with this. So yes, you may feel in the next few weeks the desire to do a detox, the calling to step away from foods that don't agree with you, alcohol that doesn't agree with you, as you start to respect your own physical vessel on a completely different level. If not, well, the universe is going to help you with that one. If not, then yes, things are going to get hard. Things are going to get difficult. It's not that the body can't cope. The body can cope, but it just needs time to integrate these subtle changes that we have no idea are even happening. We can say this is going on with the planets and that's happening, and the body has the most incredible way of noticing a change in temperature, let alone anything else. So imagine what is going on for the body here. Taking the tradition of taking it for granted out of the equation and starting to see it for the vessel and the physical tool that it is, because then we come full circle to the Two of Cups at the bottom of the pack, attraction. Seeing the physical body as the soul mate, as the consort to the very spirit that runs through us is going to be really key this week if we're going to look after our heart and the vision that is had for us. Without the body, none of it's possible, guys. This card is all based upon attraction. Without the body, none of this is possible. Start really rebuilding that relationship that you have with yourself. Take care. Have the most wonderful week, and I may see you next week. Take care.